Today on the Magic for Life podcast, we have Chris Baden. The last three businesses Chris has started have done over 1 million each year in revenue. In the last 9 years of being self-employed, he attributes purpose-driven prospecting as his key skill to solve problems and add value to others. I can't wait to share a story with you. Let's cue the intro and jump right in. I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast, and I'm excited that you joined me today because we have Chris Baden. I said it right? It's Baden, not, yeah?
Yep, Baden.
Oh, that's it. I was like, all of a sudden, it went through my head like, maybe I said that.
Hold on. Yeah, nailed it. You're on point.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you here today. Chris is one of my mentors, and look to him on a regular basis to help me continue to grow and get stronger and better. But he's amazing, and I cannot wait for everybody to learn about him. And so what I want to do with you straight away is jump in and talk about your backstory, because in so few cases do you get a chance to really tell kind of how it all began. And you have a lot of things that you've done through the years. You've started a lot of successful businesses. You have had quite an interesting journey. So I want to start from the beginning, back in my day when I was, no, maybe not that long, but from the beginning, give us your backstory. What is it that got you going into entrepreneurship and going down this path, and how did you get to this point today?
Great question. To share a fun story that, like for young Chris, kid Chris, that I think others might enjoy and be able to pull some things from. I was 5 years old, and that's I go back there because that's the first time that I can recall being like, I want that. And I want that, meaning I have a goal. Here's a specific outcome I would like to attain, and I'm committed. And you guys, like everyone listening, you know what I'm saying? Like I like just drawing this distinction between goals and outcomes. I'm not really a big fan of goals. I would be labeled as your ambitious, driven guy more than not. But oh man, you gotta have a lot of goals. I just don't like the word. Goals feel kind of like hopes. It's like, I hope I get this. I hope I hit that. I like outcomes. Like, here's the outcome. Here's the result that I'm committed. Oh, I didn't get it. Well, great. My work's not done. What's next in order to you just keep going and going and going until you get it. So the first outcome, I was like, this one. At 5 years old, I wanted to be a first degree black belt. I just started, it was Taekwondo that I was in, American Taekwondo Association. I think the franchise is still around everywhere, but yeah, really, really helpful. It was awesome. They had like the word of the week, encourage or confidence, respect, and you had to. There's so many great things, life lessons that I learned in that. And so, but Jason Nunhole, this kid, and I haven't talked to this kid in years, but he was 7 years old, and he could kick above his head and do all the weapons. And I was like, this is friggin' the coolest thing ever. I want to be a first degree black belt and kick above my head. So I'm 5 years old, just kind of getting into it. And yeah, I mean, it was a hard journey, but like 5 days a week, whatever it was, there is this persistence. Both my parents grew up on a farm, so I always say I get my work ethic from them. Sun up, sun down mentality. It's just that kind of feel. And it's like, well, is that hard work? I was like, I don't know. It's just what it is. This is what we do. So, I'm progressing through the forums and all the one steps, and then I become a brown belt. I get into board breaking, and there's a bunch of fears I needed to break through there. I was just scared to like hit it, and it hurts, and just all this like whiny stuff in my head. I just needed to kind of grow up a little bit and just persevere and focus and like just do it. And so there's that, but I really had a hard sticking point when I was a red and black belt. And that's the belts. You're red in that sequence. It's a red belt, then a red black belt, and then you're a first degree black belt. And for our listeners, like, it was the belt right before the black belt, the breakthrough, that it was the hardest. Not just physically, not just mentally, but also emotionally. Emotionally, I was burned out. I was done. I'm good. I'm like, I don't really care anymore. It's funny that it hits like when you get so close to it. I don't know why, we see all these movies and it's the story arc and it's like, duh, why is that so real life? But it really was. And so here's what here's what happened. I wanted to quit. I really did. But my dad got the key from the instructor, and then we started also going on the weekends. So that's what happened. But there's a really important takeaway of this story, kind of a punchline. There's a lot of fun takeaways, but one really punchline that I'd like to share with everyone is kind of giving an insight, because this set a certain foundation for me as it translated into school, as it translated in graduating at the top of my class, as it translated into and being the slowest reader on planet Earth, as it translated into sports and becoming the captain of the teams that I was a part of. Not always, not all of them, but a good portion of them. And then as it translated into business later in life, there's a certain foundation that was set. And what I learned was how to feel all those emotions, be aware of them, be aware of and remember very clearly how I was thinking, physically how I felt, and what I needed to do and overcome the whole picture. And in that moment, stay focused, stay committed, and do more until your confidence grows above all of those challenges. So that's what happened. And I tested. And at 7 years old, 2 years later, 5+ days a week, I became a first degree black belt. And just all the different tests. That lesson, the punchline breakthrough for me was, oh, it's okay to push through. So when I bumped up against my next challenge, because it came, and anyone that's done enough life knows, the struggle and grind is a guarantee. Guaranteed. What's not a guarantee is the breakthrough. What's not a guarantee is success. What's not a guarantee is I'm going to get the amount of money or the relationship or whatever I want, or the thing that I feel inside that I should pursue. That's not a guarantee. So it's like if you find the thing that's worth it from the beginning, that's a good idea. Because whatever you choose, there will be a struggle and a grind to overcome and persevere through. But if you pick the right one, at least it'll be fulfilling enough, that'll kind of justify all the time. And so for me, that set up kind of a foundation where as I approached other sports, I went on to get my second degree black belt a year later when I was 8. And then I had to wait till I was like 21 to get my third degree. And I was like, ah. So I started teaching classes. That kind of goes a whole nother direction. But I was like, okay, well, now what am I supposed to do? So I, started playing other sports and doing other things. And in doing that, I faced that same emotion, that same feel like, oh, like I'm not good enough. I'm the worst on the team. But you'll see this reemerging pattern in me where I start the worst and I end the best, because I focus on the outcome of, well, what does it take? Well, what's my next step? Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, it's amazing what sports will do for you, and these things like martial arts. I mean, I find martial arts to be pretty fascinating, and I've seen so many amazing athletes that have gone through martial arts training, and it does such a great job of taking care of the mind, body, and soul connection, that it's really cool to be able to see what kind of things you can produce with that kind of discipline, but also that kind of mentality that kind of comes with it. It's not just the actual act of the martial arts. It seems like there's so much more to it, and as you've shown, there's so many different applications of it going into sports and then further. So then what got you going the business route? And have you always been an entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. No. Um, yeah, I don't come from money. I don't, there's not a family trust fund. Um, and, my family has a job. They get paid per hour, by the hour. My dad's a flight attendant. My dad's a pilot. My mom's a flight attendant. And so my dad worked hard, and some pilots can make anywhere between 30 and 60. My dad came from from a farm and debt and slept in his car, and I get some of my intensity and drive, I'm assuming, from him, and partly my mom as well. But he worked his way up the pilot ladder, we'll call it. But he'd always kind of tell me growing up, he's like, I only get paid when I sit in that seat, Chris. And so that was, I think, kind of that thought. And so when I eventually entered the workforce after college, I say enter the workforce, like I played golf in college. My next goal after becoming, first degree black belt, I eventually did go on to get my third degree black belt later in life, and stopped kind of like when I was 14 or 15. I came back for a year or two, got it, and then had to wait again for the fourth degree thing. And I didn't want to open up a studio. I didn't want to go that path. So my next kind of target was I want to be a D1 golfer, Division I golfer. But I had a problem. See, I couldn't hit a golf ball off the ground. I remember specifically, I was in Minnesota, and I looked across the range, and I saw these high school kids, and they would just it looked like it was friggin' easy, and they would just hit the ball and it would fly. I was like, dude, I hit it. I just smashed the ground, and I barely hit the ball. I was like, this is sad. This could be really hard. And later, as I kind of persevered through that, you know what I learned? Golf is still a pain in the ass. It never gets easier. Well, I can break 70 now, but why do I still feel like crap? Why do
Right.
I still feel like golf is winning? Golf has this excellent way of teaching you managing rejection, and if you screw up, it's all your fault. It's always your fault. Who else is there to blame? It's not as team oriented, even though there's team in high school and college. There's some team elements. At the same time, it's this internal battle with yourself. So it's a decade of that shaped me pretty strong as well. So somehow I stay in this game for 10 years, because that's what it took, all day every day, for 10 years. And there'd even be I'm high school, hey, friends are going to go on some trip. It's it's summer. I'm playing competing almost every week. You can miss a week. I was like, no. And I actually kind of regret a little bit of that, to be perfectly honest. It's dude, okay, it's good to be focused and intense, but you can still enjoy life. It doesn't have, work is only one aspect of life.
Right.
So I think there's some learning but just to give you a picture of just when I go, I just it gets intense, I get focused, and that's all I think about. And so that pattern for 10 years. And I just couldn't hit the ball off the ground. I was the worst person going into high school. By the end of the year, out of the 14 players, I was ranked about 6 on the team. And I missed the cut to qualify for the state team by 1 shot. I lipped out the last putt till I was just my freshman year, I was so frustrated. I was glad that I got that far, but when you get that close, it's really a kick in the balls.
Yeah.
And you don't wear a cup in golf. It's a country club sport. So it hurt. And so I'm fired up. I come back next year, go through the whole season, and I'm consistently in the middle of the pack. I get to the qualifier again to go play for regionals and state, and I miss it by 1 shot again. I was like, you got to be kidding
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Can I miss it by 5? Can I make it by 10? Not one. Oh, so I hate to admit this, but when I drove home, the raid, my teammate Jeff was in the passenger seat. I'm early 16s or something. I'm driving. I'm pissed. I floor it. We almost go 120 miles an hour going home on the freeway. I'm not proud of it. I've not gotten something to this day. I haven't got a speeding ticket, but I'm a decent driver, not again knock on something, but he was just like, he sits back in his seat, wide-eyed. He's like, like, poor guy, like freaked him out. And I was just, anyway. So you can feel some of this tension. I'm facing the same thing again, and I know at least deep down, it's okay. It's okay. Just take a deep breath, cool off. Took a few days, and get back to work. And so I did that. And the next year, my junior year, I had the lowest scoring average on my team. I was the team captain of that team, and then qualified for regionals and state. And my senior year, I didn't win state, but I top fived. I took fifth in the state my senior year. Unfortunately, my goal was to be a D1 golfer, and in the way high school golf works, nobody cares about the state tournament. Oh, you're really good in your state. I don't really care. There's like this whole other national circuit apparently that I needed to be a part of. I didn't know. And I think for us listening in our path, we don't always know how to do stuff. In hindsight is 2020, and I think a lot of us listening kind of wish 2020 was in hindsight right now. But for that journey, if I had to do it again, I would completely do it differently, just in the golf pursuit. But this is so important because, in martial arts, and then pursuing that D1 scholarship, and then I did eventually attain it. So I had to go to a junior college my first 2 years, and then it came down to the wire. It was August. Like, classes start in like 2 weeks. I'm going to be a junior in college. I still don't have a D1 scholarship. I've applied to 3 different colleges. I've been talking to coaches. I've been trying to claw my way in, right? And finally, 2 weeks before college starts, I finally get a call back from a school in California, Southern California, Cal State Bakersfield. I don't know why I'm not saying it. And it's like, hey, Chris, here's some money. You get a scholarship and a bag if you want to come play. And I was like, wow. This has been 6 years. 6 years. Like almost every day, summers, the whole, this was my career. That's how I approached it. And I thought the whole time that I was never good enough. I was never going to actually make it. I kept missing cuts. It's just pure commission only sales. It's just pure entrepreneurship rejection every day. But you got to show up anyway, figure it out. It's just a grind. Like, I just know it as, like, I've spent so much of life kind of in that space. I don't know that I would ever survive in a job. I'd be bored out of my mind. You mean I have a paycheck and I just have to do this? And like, kind of, there's not enough pressure, and I'm so used to the pressure. It wouldn't work. So I know it's kind of elaborate backstory a little bit, but the emotions I hope people connect with, because that crap's real. That was like, that really kind of set the tone, for what I was walking to in business, which I didn't expect. But also, the character that was built. A lot of time, like in business and in life, we're never going to go past where our character is. We're never going to go past where our capacity limit is. If you do want to accomplish, more, like you got to become more. The person I am today, running different companies, building different companies with amazing people, shout out to Sean and Melissa Malone that I've been partners with the last 4 years. Like, no way I would even accomplish a fraction of what I have without them and the teams that we've built and worked together in. And that goes down a whole nother conversation of accomplishing things greater than ourselves. But, this path of persevering and getting to this point, it's just, you got to increase your character. You got to increase your capacity. And that was my punchline, is I wouldn't have hired who I was 3 years ago in the position I'm in today. No way. That person's fired. That Chris is fired. And who I see myself becoming, oh man, I gotta tell you, I'm not there yet, Michael. But I'm starting to get some vision on who it is I need to become, and a lot of different parts of life. personally, but also as a leader, that I need to graduate, I need to grow up in. And oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm this personality. Get over yourself, Chris. If you don't do these habits and these things, then you're just going to be a crappy leader, and it's just not going to work. So either do it or just go home.
That's a crazy mentality that it seems like athletes pick up along the way. Like but it seems to be that athletes, performing artists, athletes, we tend to get those things early. Like you said, tons of rejection. And sometimes the rejection is like 100% you. Like, it's you. You can't blame it on anybody else. It's all pointing back at you. And when all those things weren't working out, when you were hitting those points of rejection, there were things inside. You keep alluding to emotions and being able to keep your emotions in check. So what was it that emotionally kept you pushing through that?
I think there's a lot of wisdom in knowing the difference between quitting and stopping. And there's a very big difference. When you internally commit to something, no one else may know, but if you don't see it through, to get that full yes or that full no, you'll know, and you'll know for the rest of your life. And that will affect your mental, emotional state, and it will affect your integrity. When you're building confidence, you got to keep your word, at least with yourself. It can be felt. It can be felt when if you're ever talking to somebody and they're just somebody that their yes isn't their yes, their no isn't their no, and they don't come through, eventually, like, look, is it the end of the world? No, it's not. Like, you'll just eventually kind of know, well, this person's flaky. Is that who you are? Is that who you want to be? Okay, well, we got choices to make. The guarantee is we get consequences. Do you want a good consequence or a bad consequence? So sometimes I'll ask myself when I'm making decisions, I was like, what consequence do I want here? I don't ask, well, what do I feel like doing? I think it's smart. I think it's wise. I think it's a good idea to be very aware and mindful of how you feel. A lot of time, emotional intelligence in 2014 came into my world. I was like, huh, what's that? So I started reading about emotional intelligence. Like, what the heck is this? And that led me down a path where I started reading a book, at least a book a month. And so it's been 6 years now where I do read at least a book a month. Guess what? I suck at reading. I'm really, really slow. My wife makes fun of me. If I sit down, if if I make it into a paragraph of a book, I will pass out. Like, that's like, usually it's two or three sentences. I'm just out like a light, like clock. Maybe I should sit down more often. I don't know. But she just, like, you can't even stay awake enough to read because it's slow. I don't know. Anyway, I really struggle with it. So does that mean I have an excuse from not reading? No, audiobooks. And go for a walk, go run, move your body so where it's so hard for you to fall asleep, and so I found a way. And so audible.com, yes, love that thing. And just finished another book this morning, Sell It Like Sirhan. So a lot of really great things in there. So I continued that pattern and continued being aware of my emotions. That's wise. At the same time, I don't make decisions solely based on how I feel. A really personal, hard journey. Everyone's got to find their own way, in life. But I waited to have sex for marriage, and so did my wife. I was 26 when I got married. Drugs, alcohol, haven't been as drawn to those things. I like girls. They've always been interesting to me. And so when I made that internal commitment to say, no, I'm going to wait. You talk about, being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your emotions. That one, at least for me, maybe it's different for other dudes, but for me, good night. That's still by far the hardest challenge. You talk about sports, reject, all they did is say no. I'll be good in a day. But when you got to wake up the next day and still like manage all that energy as a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 24, it's like, for me, again, maybe Chris, why you make it seem like a big deal? For me, it was like, this is really challenging. So, and it's everything, porn, masturbate, everything, like, no. And everyone's not going to always know my personal life. I've certainly never talked about this stuff on a podcast or an interview before, but in this framework, and is that the best route? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of great fruit and blessing that I'm really grateful that I did. But I'm not saying that's always like the perfect path. I'm not trying to evangelize how to go about this, but what I do want everyone to hear is the balance of managing emotion, thought, and actual decision making and action. There's a certain practice and discipline and insane value to paying attention to those. And it kind of sums up in this area of there's a difference between quitting and there's a difference between stopping. I promise the temptation of just waiting for marriage, and then you find the person that you're going to be with and you both know it and you're both going down that path. No one's going, it could be managed where no one's going to know, but I'll always know and we'll always know. And what kind of person do you choose to be? And then, so that's the filter. Now, I'm not perfect and I make mistakes, and there is validity to saying, owning up to what you messed up on and what actually took place. But that shaped me in a different way. And the business partnerships that I built, the level of communication and honesty, I think is at a place that most people aren't used to. So I say a saying like this. Here's kind of a thing someone could actually take and implement into their life. I say this. By the way, this statement has served me well in my best friend that I've known my entire life. The marriage that I've had, we've been together 13 years, coming in a month, and we've been married for 7. And the successful business relationships, the current one with Sean and Mel is 4 years now. Like the longevity, like the real valuable ones, right? This phrase has helped build these relationships. And it's know that I want to know. And if I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. Let me unpack it just for a second. Know that I want to know. And if I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. It's a really simple statement, but it's basically saying, know that I will always care. I don't care how small it is in any relationship when I'm building, because that crap builds. And I don't want to be given a big pile of all the things that I've screwed up. It's a lot harder to fix. I like to equate it to the junk drawer or the junk room or the garage for some of you listening, where you've got these massive piles and it's the thing you just want to keep the door shut on, but it's there. And the mental and emotional energy that sucks, steals, and drains from you is insane. And then you multiply that over time, the multiple of that, you could live a completely different, lesser life. It actually really is a big deal at scale. Like in golf, if you hit the ball straight down the fairway, but if you change the degree of the club face by just 1 degree, the further down the fairway you go at 100 yards, at 200 yards, at 300 yards, the distance between your target that you're aiming for actually becomes hundreds of yards different. So where you're aiming to hit your mark, to hit your goal, know that I always want to know. Like, I care about all the small stuff. Like, let's fix it sooner so we don't end up way off target. And then the second piece is, and if I don't know, I can't be responsible for anything to change or fix. And so it creates a relational dynamic, a partnership dynamic with yourself and with other people, where it's saying, once I know, we can get to work on it. And it's my responsibility when I feel those things, it's my responsibility to bring that to the table and have the uncomfortable conversation. And I will trust that if you feel any of those things, you will know that I will respond to you in a safe environment, in a safe way. I won't yell at you, I won't punish you for actually being honest with me, no matter how hard it is to hear. And so it's just kind of, I don't know, to me, that has served me well as I've gone through life. It seems like, well, of course, all that makes sense, Chris, but we all know when we go through life, that junk it gets a little gray, gets a little messy, should I say it? Is this the right time to say this thing? Is this being too, it gets into this head game. So I just try to knock all that stuff out as soon as I can earlier in a relationship and building, and just know that it's always safe, and just having really honest and respectful conversations is okay. That's normal.
Yeah. You know, you've had some wicked successes in business, and so much of what you've talked to us about is that foundation for all of that to come together. How have you learned to manage worry and fear, two of our most challenging emotions to play with, during this process, and in finding success in those businesses that you've built?
Worry and fear. Great. Okay. I love it. Those are great. Worry, what comes to mind is focusing on what you can control and what you can't control. And fear is identify if it's good fear or bad fear, because I don't think all fear is bad. It's not all negative. Sometimes it's really helpful. It's really, really helpful. So worry, usually when I'm worried, I'm focused and thinking or anticipating things that I can't control. So if there's something, mentally I need to think through, or emotionally I need to sort through, it's like, okay, you get 5 minutes, you get 30 minutes, you get an hour, you get the rest of today to process this. It can get as messy as you want it to get. But once that's done, we're going to reset to, where am I at right now? What can I control? And what's the next step? And I got to let everything else go. And so it's just kind of that mental or emotional operating system. I love that term. That's my SOP, my standard operating procedure
Nice.
for managing the, emotion and worry in that fashion. Is I like to set a time frame so I don't dwell, I don't sit in it, because that steals from me. It steals from the relationships that are around me, and it steals from, hitting goals. When I bring that into sales calls, when I bring that into team meetings, when I bring that into everywhere, it just doesn't help me. That alone, other people. So that's kind of the worry piece. And then the fear piece is, sometimes, to be blatantly clear, you're at the edge of a cliff. I'm afraid of falling over. You're going to die. Okay, great, Chris. I get it. That's a really healthy fear. You want that fear there. So you're alert, your adrenaline kicks in, fight or flight, the fight kicks in, you're focused, you're more focused, you're more aware. And reining it in closer to real life and into business. The entrepreneur likes to jump out of the plane. I'm totally guilty of this. Hey, we're going to build a parachute. How? I don't know. I'm going to hope there's some debris in the air and it's got a parachute. We'll build it on the way. It's some of that mentality, and there is value to taking imperfect action. So I like this balance act of imperfect action, but also it's like, hey, if I'm launching, a new program, a new mastermind or something, and I've never solved that problem personally, and I've never solved that problem for other people, and I'm just going to figure it out as I go, and I'm going to charge other people money for that. I'm afraid because I don't know how it's going to go. I think that is a good fear to listen to and say, you know what? Yeah, you shouldn't go down that path. What would make more sense is listen to that fear, recalibrate in the sense of what problem I'm solving, make sure that I can actually get some type of result for myself. Okay, great, I can. Now let's go test. this with someone else? Can I actually lead somebody else in an effective way to get the desired outcome? You know what? I did it once. Great. I did it 2 or 3 times. Okay, great. Now my confidence is really high. I don't have everything completely worked out. My processes, my communication could be a little bit tighter because in this case it went this way, in that case it went another. However, that is a reasonable product to bring to market. There'll still be some fear, nerves, anticipation, but at least like you're setting yourself up and others for success. And so if fear, that's the good side. The bad side of fear is it can translate into or from anger or self-doubt, or if you're not viewing yourself in an objective or fair way, you're being self-destructive. That's an unhealthy fear that it leads into kind of different challenges. And without kind of diving, and I've dealt and struggled with all of the above, almost on a daily basis. But what extreme cases, here's what really helps me. Here's a standard operating procedure that someone could take, implement, and use that has served me really, really, really well. Is most of the time when I'm struggling the most emotionally, I'm burned out, I'm fatigued, and I don't know it. I don't know, maybe Michael, if you've ever experienced this, but
yeah.
my wife also makes fun of me because she's like, "Are you tired?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine, I'm good." She's like, "You're like, one of your eyes is shut right now, Chris." Like, I'm good. I'm fine. I can. What do you? So she'll we kind of laugh about it because part of me is like, it's just my thinking. It's like, well, I've gone 72 hours without eating and only drinking water. I was like, how's my body gonna respond? Like, and I know some people fast for like 21 days and 3 days is nothing, but 3 days was, man, there is food everywhere. When you're not eating, it's like all you do is think about food. It's insane. Anyway, and then sleep. I've done multiple like 40+ hour shifts of just like, you start Saturday morning, work all day Saturday. I don't sleep all Saturday night. I work through Sunday day till the end of the day, and that's usually about a 40+ hour shift. And it's like, you see, like I have a breaking point, and like emotionally and mentally, I start having all these weird types of fears. I get a lot of anger. I'll have these crazy arguments with people in my head. I get insanely violent in my thoughts, and it goes through me, and I'm like, that was intense. Like, that's not me. I'm not an angry or horrible person. I haven't done these things. You know what I mean? So I'm sharing these stories for a specific reason. Number one, I know I'm not alone. That crap is not unique to me. Okay. So when it goes through me, I'm not like, oh, I'm a bad person. I don't identify with a mistake or a bad thought, or, it's like saying, like, if something hurts you and then you put identity in it, that's insanity. That's like stepping on a nail and the nail goes through your foot and it hurts you. It pierces you. It pierces your, emotion. It pierces your heart or pierces your body, right? And you're like, oh crap, the nail hurt me. Now I'm a nail. And that kind of goes down. And I know it sounds silly, but just follow the logic and just, I don't know the most PC way to say this, but like, um, alcoholic or different trends or things, there's it's a little messy in there, and I don't want to dive too deep. Just follow with me the logic. I'm saying if someone has been drunk for a period of time and they've struggled with that habit, maybe not everyone, but some of them aren't alcoholics. But notice that alcoholic is like an identity phrase. Alcohol is a habit or choice that you chose to consume, and then there was bad decision or hurtful decision or a hurtful event that took place, and therefore you're like, oh, now I'm emotionally in pain, and now I'm going to identify it as this thing. No, you're still a human, right? You step on a nail, it pierces. I don't know if that's too deep. Did I cover that too fast? Is this making sense?
Oh yeah, totally. You're right on.
The point is the power in this is being aware of your emotions, being aware of your thoughts, and where you're giving away your power. If you identify with weak emotions, you'll start showing up as a lesser person. It's just how it works. So I just want to like encourage people, take the power back. And you know when you can do it? Right this second. As soon as you become aware of where you're giving it away for free, which is your fault, which is my fault. And so, yeah, as we go, anyway, that one just, I didn't see myself going down that rabbit hole. Well, I'm trying to rein myself back in here. Where was I really going? There's a story here. I had a punchline.
Well, I think that the idea that you're not your emotions, they're there as a guidance system is huge, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it is huge. It is huge. Dang it. It'll come back to me, Michael. I promise. Everyone listening, I'm sorry for blanking out. I'm. Right. The food test, the sleep test, and all these thoughts going. Here is the standard operating procedure that you can use when you're in high levels of tension, high levels of stress in your business, in your life, in your relationships. Is this everything that you're thinking, everything that you're feeling? Don't ignore it. Don't just discard it, even as crazy as it may be, and you don't identify with it all. Don't push it aside or don't ignore it. Just write it down. Just write it down on a list. Here's everything I'm feeling. And then once you write it down, the 3 things, the 10 things, this is what I do anyway. I set it aside. I give myself permission to no longer feel or think those things or struggle or dwell in all those fear and shame and guilt, all those emotions that are really damaging in too much doses. And then I say for the next 3 days, here's what I'm focused on. Number 1 priority is sleep. Like if you can't sleep, lay in bed for 8 hours. Because I'm like a 5-hour a night guy, 6-hour a night guy. Lay in bed for 8 hours. I'll read a book. So and then because at least it's a relaxing activity, and my brain will lay down and read, and usually I'm passing out anyway. So I'll do it for 3 nights. Make sure you're eating at least 3 meals, lots of vegetables, good alkaline, healthy, great diet. Hydrate at least 70% of your body weight in ounces. So sleep, nutrition, hydration. And then exercise at least 30 minutes. Get your heart rate up. Go for 2 walks, 2 10-minute walks at minimum. Do that and work out. Do those 3 things every day, just about every day for those 3 straight days. Then after that, then go back to your list and read it. Here's what happens to me 99% of the time. All the crap that I was feeling does not apply.
Right.
It's either been resolved or it just completely was irrelevant. And check this out. The 3 days that I spent rejuvenating, essentially, and notice I'll probably still work those days. Oh, Chris, but I don't have the time. Everyone, you trust me. The return you will get for putting a normal stuff, pouring into yourself that we really should be doing anyway. There's still plenty. I've got 3 kids. I'm running 2 businesses. There's a way. You can find a way to prioritize yourself, and the return that you'll be able to give to your relationships and business will be leveraged and even better anyway. I can get more for less. Yes, you can. And that's how you do it. Those 3 days, while I spent rejuvenating, I still was working. I still was moving forward. I still was focused on good things because that's my process of giving myself permission to be like, you know what, today I feel like crap. I feel horrible today.
Right.
This feels like it's going to be and sometimes the day is just awful. I had one of those last week where I was like, dude, everything is broken. Nothing's working. It's canceling. This fell up. I was like, somebody needs to be recording this because you can't how is all of the things not working all in the same day? It's insane how some of those days happen. And it's like, okay, just write it down. Let's reset, and then let's revisit. And that process has given me permission to stay focused, keep moving forward, and not it saved me a lot of emotional damage and scars with fear, with worry, with self-doubt and anger and hatred and frustration and crap can get real sometimes.
That's so true. Okay, we're going to go into the next segment, and this is our lightning round. I call it our go-to emotions. And I'll give you a category, and you'll give us your go-to emotion when things are working well and your limiting emotion when things are going poorly. All right,
Okay.
super easy. First category is business. What's your go-to emotion in business when things are going well?
Excitement. I don't know if that's the right emotion, but I just
Okay.
like, just
Yeah.
the higher energy excitement and liking it.
Okay. And when things are going poorly, what's the limiting emotion?
Yeah, anger.
Okay. And in partnerships, when things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
uh Talkative is the word that comes to mind.
Okay.
Just
Sure.
joking, humor,
Yeah.
laughter. Yeah,
Okay. And when things are going poorly, what's the limiting emotion?
quiet.
Okay.
Quiet. I kind of reserve a little bit. I just need to, so I don't say stupid things.
Okay. And in coaching, there's two sides of this. So one where you are being the coach, and one where you are going to coach. So we'll talk about the one where you're being the coach first. When things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
Encouragement.
Okay. And when things are going poorly, what's the limiting emotion?
Just self-doubt.
Okay.
Doubt who I am and that someone should listen or follow me.
All right. And when you're being coached, because you've had some great coaches along the way, uh,
Totally.
when things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
Um, I can't say this in a word, but it's funny. It's when things are good and there's breakthrough and the coach is helping me with something. It's kind of like, okay, I got it, and next. And I
Yeah.
don't know if this is actually a good response. Actually, now that I'm saying it,
Yeah.
I don't quite acknowledge or sit in or
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah. Yeah.
like, oh, cool, we had the moment. I'm just kind of like, okay, that's expected. Now next.
Cool.
That's what happens. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
right answer.
No, that's there's no right answer. It's you.
Yeah.
Okay. And when things are going poorly, when you're being coached, what's the limiting emotion?
Yeah, I mean, it gets into that self-doubt stuff again. Yeah, confidence and self-doubt has definitely been a recurring struggle for me throughout life.
You and the rest of us. um, in your relationship, when things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
Back to the laughter and humor, and
Okay.
usually when I'm happy, more humor will come out of me. I feel more like myself.
Okay. And when things are going poorly, what's the limiting emotion?
Yeah, relations, I get a little quiet. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Are you? Oh shoot, I'm not fine. Okay, I'll figure it out. Sorry, I'll be back in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you have children and they're getting bigger. So when things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
Ideas, creativity, conquer the world. We're gonna start businesses and kick butt and take names with my kids.
Nice. And when things are going poorly, what's the limiting emotion?
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with me? Why are you so insane? Like, just can't. I just need a little reprieve. Just a pause button for just 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Well,
yes.
that's it. That's the last category. I appreciate you being straightforward with us. It's always exciting to know that there are some more out there just like us.
So true.
um, all right. Well, it wouldn't be a day without me being able to share with the world one of my favorite mentors and coaches, and someone who's done so much for us. I'd love you to tell them about what you're up to and what you're doing, and how they can get in touch with you and find out more about you.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, Michael. The best place to track me down is on Facebook. Just message me. Chris Baden is my name. Um, and I have my banner picture, because there is more than one Chris Baden. As I've been on these, I was like, oh, I'm telling people to come find me. I'm like, well, there's more than one Chris Baden apparently. I need to meet. That would be great content. I should like go on this mission to like go meet all the Chris Badens in the world. So on my banner, there's a picture of myself, my business partners with Russell Brunson. He's a owner of and CEO of ClickFunnels software company, and we're just holding up like this record award. So that's my profile. Message me, and message Majic for Life. Make sure that you let me know that you came from Majic for Life, so that we can take special care of you. And because you're already a different breed if you're listening to the goodness that Michael's putting out into the world.
Indeed. Lifers all the way for the win. Hey, we sure appreciate you. We'll put a link in there. And you also said about your Sales Ascenders Inner Circle. So we'll put that link in there to your Facebook and have them follow that as well. Yeah,
we do have a free Facebook group. It's Sales Ascenders. Some of the there's so many good stuff behind Sales Ascenders, because that's just that's the entry brand. The true heart of that is to be an ascender, and we're all ascenders to a certain degree, but certainly ascending in life, in business, in relationships, paying attention to the mental, emotional, but also the actual action and physical side of this life is what we focus on primarily, for business owners and sales and marketing. So there are a lot of free resources in there, free content can serve people hopefully at a high level.
Absolutely. Guys, if you haven't done it yet while you're listening, go do it now. Go message Chris and get into Sales Ascenders Inner Circle if you can. And if you'd like to work with him, go do it. He will change your world. He and his partners are awesome. They have done amazing things for Majic for Life, and we can't speak highly enough of them. So I'm so thankful that you've been here and been so open to sharing your journey and your thoughts and the trials and tribulations and the successes that you've been through. And we are so honored to have you here. So thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Lifers, don't forget to get your free copy of the Every Minute Book. You can find it at everyminutebook.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.